I don't think so.
But we don't need a quorum. And I know I have a hard stop at 4, but that should still give us plenty of time, I hope, to get through everything. And it's not even that hard of a stop. Let's just call it a medium well. Are we rolling on YouTube?
Yes. I'm just trying to get this.
Sure. Do you need another moment before we kick things off? Sorry, was that I didn't hear anything else clicking around. Did you say yes or no for another moment?
No, we're good. I'm sorry.
Oh,
Can you hear me?
yeah, I can now. Yes.
Yeah, we're good to go.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and call to order on April 24th, 2025. I believe this is our final Go Team meeting of the school year. Secretary Sprinkle, if you'd like to jump into a roll call, I do not believe we need to establish a quorum, but we can go ahead and roll call for the record.
Okay. Allison Atwell's present. Natalie Aid, present.
Present.
Okay, Paul Dobish, yes. Lauren Jones. No, absent. Rayleigh Wren. Yep, I see you present. Rebecca Pridmore is absent, we know. Chris Taplett. She is not present. Isabel York is present.
Here.
And Steve Summers is absent.
Correct. Perfect. Well, Tangi had sent out the agenda for this meeting 2 days ago on the 22nd. Does anybody move to approve the agenda?
I'll move a motion.
I'll second. Isabel?
Okay, thank you.
And then Tangi also sent out the meeting minutes for March. Hopefully everyone got a chance to review those. Those went out 2 days ago as well, I believe, also on the 22nd. Does anybody move to approve the March minutes? Anyone at all?
I'll move.
Thank you, Rayleigh.
I'll second. Sorry, my speaker, my button's not working. Natalie, second. Sorry.
Thank you. Okay.
All right. Are we good to go for discussion items?
Formalities are aside, so if you'd like to jump into the MAPS test results.
Yes. There are about a zillion ways I can look at MAPS test results. So I just picked a couple. And while we are looking at that, there's some questions that it's good for you to kind of keep in your mind as we look at that data. Just thinking about like what you see, what looks like something that's positive, strengths, weaknesses, just as we look at that. And I'll kind of go through and try to describe what is on the screen. So this screenshot is math, and it is achievement level predictions for milestones. So at this point in for the spring map, the district has the map scores show that about 71% of our students will be proficient or above on the Georgia Milestones test. And that puts us at the top of the North Atlanta cluster right now. For reading, we were lower. We were higher at 70. No, sorry, that's Brandon, at 73% proficient or above on the milestone. So that we were just behind Morris Brandon on proficiency. And this is a different screen, and this screen includes the screens before were the milestone grade level, so third through fifth grade. This screen is showing you growth for the entire school, so K through 5, because every grade level takes the MAP assessment in both reading and math. And so we are looking for kids to be in the yellow, green, or blue, because we want them to meet their growth target. So you can see, I have the calculation written down somewhere here, but we have, who can do the math real quick? I had it written down, I thought, of what percentage that was of meeting the target, but you know, it's a little over 70% is meeting the growth target for math. And then you can see for reading, we had 68% make their growth target for reading. So, you know, that's when we talk about, you know, achievement is one thing. We want everybody to be proficient and above, but we also want every child to grow, no matter if they are a level 1 or if they're a level 4. We want to see that growth. So the growth quintile chart lets us see, you know, what percentage of our students are growing and what percent are not. And that can be a mix, like the kids that could be in this red box not making growth could be children that will score a level 4 on the milestones, but then just on their map from fall to spring, they didn't show average or higher growth. So that's always a goal. We want kids to make, you know, average or above average growth on the MAPS test. Okay. This is a comparison chart for proficient or above. It has all grade levels and then all the grade levels combined at the bottom. So you can see, I can move this around different ways, but what I left on there was our spring performance on the milestones, our fall performance on MAP, and our spring performance on MAP. So I really am focusing on, when I look at this, I focus on more of like what happened from fall to spring on the MAP test. And so you can see third grade made some really big gains in both reading and math from fall to spring on the MAP test. Fourth grade, they dropped, actually went down from fall to spring on the reading portion of the MAP test, and then made a slight increase in the math portion. Fifth grade, they pretty much kind of stayed the same. They actually dropped a percentile point in both reading and math. Overall, you know, we saw a slight growth in reading and a little bit more in math from fall to spring on the MAP test. Somebody have a question?
I have a question, actually. Is it possible to interpret growth as like, just colloquially, you're already doing great, so there's not much more room to go?
No.
Or is that not the case?
No, because what they do, so say you got, you know, a RIT score of like 140 on the MAP reading test. They take all the kids that scored in this range, whatever their range is, and I don't know if it's like 140 to 150. They're all this little cohort. And so they watch those kids, they group those kids, and they see the kids that scored the same, and, you know, this is how much they grew. So it is possible for a child that scores in the 99th percentile to grow, because they're being compared to other children that have the same scores. And so they're saying, okay, in the fall, you guys all scored this. And then in the spring, that's when they say, oh, okay, so this child made the greatest growth of the entire group, or children that scored the same. Does that make sense?
Yes, that does. Thank you.
Now, you know, my teachers, that is something that we do talk about. I mean, it is it can be harder to move sometimes those kids, but it is possible.
Can you
Did
go
you
to
have something
slide before real fast, Allison? I just wanted to look at those percentages one more time.
Go right ahead.
Yeah, at the bottom. Okay, so it was reading was 72 to 73 and math was
66 to 71.
okay.
So we saw, to me, when I look at this third grade group right here is kind of bringing these scores down here for the whole school up.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And then this is by subgroup. We've talked a lot about subgroups. We talk in the district, we look at subgroups. Every child is in a subgroup. Some children are in more than one subgroup. So this is SWD stands for Students with Disabilities. So those are going to be our students that have IEPs. ELL is students that are speak another language, are not English language learners, is what ELL stands for. We have the Asian Pacific Islander group. We have the Black or African American group, Hispanic, Latino group, 2 or more races. That could be a combination of any of these different subgroups, and then the white subgroup. So those are what's on this screen, and you can see the performance on the fall to spring map. So just to go through this really quickly, when you look at the students with disabilities, we did actually see some really great growth from fall to spring. We had a 10% growth in reading. Math, not as much, but did see a little shift up. With our English language learners, we had about a 4% gain in reading from fall to spring. And we had just a slight increase from fall to spring in math. The Asian Pacific Islander in reading stayed the same. And in math, they increased by 6% for proficient or above. And then in the Black or African American subgroup, we saw a decline, a 9-point decline from fall to spring in reading. And then in math, we just saw a 1% gain. In the Hispanic or Latino, we saw a 2% decrease in reading and a 2% decrease in math. In 2 or more races, we saw a really big decline from 92% to 79% proficiency in ELA. And in math, 92 to 86. So pretty significant declines in both of those. And then in our white subgroup, we saw an increase by 8% in both reading and math proficiency for that subgroup.
Allison, can you explain a little bit? The GMAS stands for, I guess, the Georgia Milestones, but the MAP, is it in comparison, like the people that write both of the examinations, assessments, or whatnot, they're very similar? Is that why it says basically it's kind of telling us how the children will perform on the milestones, kind of? Or
this
no?
is this is like the predictor. Yeah, so the milestones and the map are not the same. They're not written by, they're different, but they've tested it enough that they know that children that score this on the map test, they can make a prediction of what they think that they will make on the milestones. And it's pretty accurate most of the time.
Okay.
Sometimes we improve and we do better than, that's kind of the hope, that we do better than what they're predicting us to do. But for the most part, it is about the same or higher for us on how we fared on the map and the milestones.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And how do they compare to the Iowa testing for the private schools? Is there ever any overlap in any of those testing standards?
No, we don't do the Iowa. They used to do the Iowa here a long time ago for gifted testing, but that's a much different test. It breaks it down into you have a spelling section, then you have a math computation section, then you have a math concept section. So the ITBS is a much different test than the math test is, because it's just a reading test and a math test. And And we don't take the only grade level that takes the science map is 5th grade. And that's because they're the only grade level that actually takes the science milestones. So no, the ITBS is different, but it is a norm reference test too. Okay.
Quick question. So sorry. Can you explain maybe a little bit about how MAPS and milestones relate to CCRPI scores? I was curious about whether that connects.
That's a long conversation.
Okay.
Yeah. So the state looks at our data different ways. They look at, you know, our progress, our content mastery. They look at closing the gap. So they take that milestones data and they look at it all different ways. So they look at it for proficiency. And, you know, we usually fare really well. If you remember me saying earlier, where we had the biggest drop was closing the gap.
Yep.
And that was because the state sets a target for us with our subgroups, and we did not meet that target for the subgroups, for those subgroups that we didn't get that green flag for. So that is, you know, it's basically they take the milestones and they can look at it all different ways, and they give us points for proficiency and they give us points for growth. And there's 4 different areas of it. They look at attendance plays into our CCRPI scores. I'm trying to think. It's a lot. I mean, I'm happy to talk about it, and I've got lots of information. I'm not really prepared to talk about it right now, but that, you know, that the milestones is part of what creates our CCRPI score. It's a large part of what creates our CCRPI score.
No, that's good. That's enough. I was just, I wanted to check if it was connected.
Yeah, and if you go, you can, you know, it's public. The CCRPI scores are public, and it will break it down in all the areas how we did, and then it also will have descriptors of where that score that they got comes from. I don't have our CCRPI score. They in front of me, but it's overall it's in the 90s, but I can't remember exactly what it was. But we're the area we need the most growth in is that closing the gap. And they base the target that they set for closing the gap on the year before. So, you know, our target should be lower for some of those that we didn't meet this year. So hopefully we'll meet it though. We'll exceed those targets so that we get all those points for the school year.
Yeah.
Okay. So needs assessment guiding questions. What does this data tell us? What good news is there to celebrate? Where are growth opportunities? What trends do we see in the data? So I've already started something on this because I know many people are always multitasking during these meetings. So I did start, hold on, what's my computer froze? There we go. Okay. So this is just where we list strengths and opportunities. So this is what I have seen. I can change these, but I just went ahead and wrote some of them, and then we can discuss and you can add to it. But strengths, we saw that 71% of our students met or surpassed their growth target from fall to spring in math. We saw that 3rd grade made large gains in both reading and math. We saw that the subgroups SWD, ELL, and White saw gains in both reading and math on the map. And over 70% of our students are proficient or above in both math and reading. Opportunities, there's a notable disparity between student subgroups when comparing MAP scores from fall to spring. The multiracial subgroup saw significant drop in reading and math, and the Black subgroup saw a significant drop in reading and little progress in math. So anything else or anything we need to change or add, reword?
No, but I like how you shouted out 3rd grade because 3rd grade, like if we're looking at, I think, continuous data, and I'm only basing that off of knowing that the 3rd grade has received an award from the state for great test scores, that whatever the 3rd grade team is doing is working.
Yeah.
And there's a dip then when they go to 4th grade.
Yeah, there's
And
definitely that dip.
yeah, and figuring out like what we can do to tap into that potential that we know they have.
Okay, yeah.
Or fostering a love for reading.
Yeah, and I was looking at another school's data and I saw that they had a dip from third to fourth grade too. So it's curious. And figuring out what the root cause of that is, and because was a pretty large dip this year and the MAP data. So just what's the root cause? What do we need to do differently as a school or within resources, or how we're supporting students that are on that grade level?
Because it could be vocabulary or it could be informational text, and that we just need to spend more time on it.
Right. Well, and then with the current standards, like that's really when they get into inferencing a lot. And so, even drilling down, like what part of comprehension is it that is the deficit?
Yeah.
Do teachers give feedback on their take on from the classroom perspective on, sort of boots on the ground perspective on what might be behind some of these changes in trends?
Yeah, we do. We have conversations about it. We look at the data and they look at it and they're very aware of where they fall. And when we are creating our continuous improvement plan for next year, which I will obviously be sharing with you guys in the fall, the team of people that writes that plan uses all of this data and the milestones data, and it's made up of teachers are on that team so that we can try to pull it apart and figure out like what our goals need to be and how we can achieve them, what the action steps are going to be to achieve them.
Thank you.
It can be like a little uncomfortable sometimes to like look at this data and, especially if your grade level is the grade level that's dropped. But, we also talk about with our teachers, some of the whys maybe behind things and why we maybe see a drop and, from their perspective, things that they've noticed that could be contributing to the drop. I know I've mentioned before that we've had an influx of new students in 4th and 5th grade. So we know that there are some kids that are in this data that haven't been with us for a long time. So we also talk about that, not to make any kind of excuse for, data not looking the way we want it to, but just to keep those things in perspective. Okay. Any other strengths or opportunities anyone sees think we should add? Okay. Okay. Now, based on that, so based on those strengths and opportunities, what must be true for Jackson to achieve excellence?
Well, I think we need to like figure out how 3rd grade plans. Maybe
Yeah.
Especially as the new standards change, I think it gives opportunities for everybody maybe to share.
Right.
Which could help increase scores,
So maybe we need to do some vertical planning, Tangie.
Yes, perhaps. And I think we need to really foster that love for reading again, because I think we've gotten in a tech world and the kids they love carrying the books around, but it's so easy for them to go to a tablet or something else. And the thrill of finishing a chapter book, I think once you finish a chapter book, you've held it in your hands, you've turned the last page. There's something to be said about that.
Right.
And getting kids back in chapter books.
Or any books. I was going to jump on,
Yeah.
but kind of piggyback what you're saying, like a book initiative. Like, does everybody have their book to take home today? I mean, from pre-K through 5th grade, where everybody has, that's our homework. Like everybody, bring your book back, share with the
Yeah.
class,
Well, I know, I don't know if I've told you this, Rayleigh, but, and Tangi, I know you've heard me say it. We kind of moved away from doing AR,
but I would
accelerated
love to bring it
reader.
back. Yes.
And I just think that although I don't think that accelerated reader is an intrinsic motivator for a lot of kids, but when we set those reading goals with AR, and we monitor that as teachers and help kids set goals and help kids achieve goals, it makes them read because they've set a reading goal for themselves. They're going to read X amount of books, or they're going to earn X amount of points, and then they have to read. Like, whereas if we're not, if there's, it puts in a little bit of an accountability that we haven't had in a while since we moved away from AR. We still have access to AR, and I would like to see that be used in the classrooms. I don't want to do a school-wide, the way it was done before, but use it in the classroom and set goals, teacher to student setting goals, like the teacher who knows the student best setting goals with them, and quarterly goals, not year-long goals, because those can be really big for kids and that can be really overwhelming, but like just a quarterly goal of how many points you're going to earn or how many books you're going to read, and doing that with the teacher, and I think that would be impactful. I think it would.
I want to jump on that little part
Yeah.
what you just said, because that was such a big part when I was in 1st grade for so many years, and kindergarten, of just my reading, just to make kids accountable. But also there's so many components of it. The children see the growth. They see their little flower or the little rocket. You can share that with parents. You can use it for your conversations during conferences. The way that they have the bookshelf, the children can, when I do tutoring, I do AR with my tutoring kids. And it's like, that way it can show their parents, look at the genres. These are the books the children like to look how good they scored on these. And then we make sure we have a mix of fiction and nonfiction, but also that we have like the children are, it's again, it's not a school-wide, who's got the most points kind of thing. It's a individual. And then the parents can say, gosh, oh, look, you read all 4 of your books this week. And parents can set their own goals at home to be like, hey, we're going to get to go to Minchie's or Fellini's for dinner or something, but it works. And the children and the teachers, I mean, I could sit here and go on for like 2 hours about it, but I think it's fantastic. I think, yay, that would be really amazing.
And we celebrate each child's goal, not that, you have 50 points and I only have 10. We celebrate meeting our goals, not how many points we have. And I think I just, I did write my thesis on using AR, so.
Well,
I'm gonna jump in.
It's like golf. I mean, it's like you don't have to have the same handicap. You don't have to have the same readability level.
Yeah.
You absolutely don't. So you can read the books that your child is able to read. It's sort of like in tutoring, my children will say, I can't read like the other kids. It's like, but look, you're doing great on these, and they see their own growth. Yeah. And it's an independent thing. Okay, I'll hush now, but yay, that sounds awesome.
I mean, yeah.
I think just to add to that from a parent standpoint, I don't know if AR has like a peer component, but I think, just thinking about like how my kids are motivated to do things, like a lot of it is seeing their friends, reading books that they also want to read and be able to talk about and like have something like together, right? So I don't know if there's a part of that that's incorporated, but I think just as we're talking about opportunities, I think maybe there's like a peer
so AR is like you read a book, then you take a quiz on it, and depending on the book, like little picture books are only worth like point, I think usually, it's been a while, and then chapter books are worth more. So if teachers, what I would envision teachers doing is setting goals with students and then celebrating and incentivizing students when they meet their goals. So once you've met your goal, then you get to go in the treasure chest, you get to go have lunch with the teacher, whatever it is. And so in that way it is, because the whole class would have, every child would have a goal, every child would, they would talk about it, they would celebrate it. So, I mean, yes. So that would be the component that would, include their peers.
Something else I'm going to jump on that is like, even when I taught kindergarten and first grade, the conversations between the children, oh, I love that book. That's a good book, you know, or they'll say, oh, you know, and at that age, they know like they're just beginning to read. They're like, this is kind of an easy one and it reads the questions to you. I mean, you know, but but that builds confidence, you know, into the children. And that's, I don't know, I think there's just so many great things about it. But
you know, the teacher can also read a book to this, and they do this a lot in kindergarten before they really can read, because you know, they get excited about it, but the teacher can read a book and then they can take the AR test and they click that it was read to them. And then the questions are also read aloud. So it's nice because before kids are really proficient or fluent readers, it gets them excited. They want to do it. They love it. Like Rayleigh was talking about the little worm and the little flower and all those things. So, and I'm sure it has been updated, Rayleigh. If you've been on it, you will have to look at it together. I know that it's been a while since we've used it at Jackson. So, but I've talked a lot about wanting to encourage the use of it, or even mandate the use of it next year. And I think most of our staff would be, I think they'd be fine with that. Don't you think, Tangie? Rayleigh, I think they've used it in the past.
I think most would. Yes.
Fantastic. I'm going to get my pre-K kids on it too.
I know we still have it by the district, so I hope they're still going to be buying it next year, or we'll have to buy it ourselves. But
well, as a parent, I'm going to just like quintuple on that, because I was reading Elizabeth Grace, a book a few nights ago, and it had an AR number in it. I was like, oh my gosh, I missed that program. Yes. It was so effective.
Yeah. All the books still have it. I mean, they all in the library. They do. I mean, it's awesome. So we can just pick it back up.
We can pick it back up. And you know what? We don't even have to go back and tag books either, because I think, you know, at the end of the day, our teachers are really good at helping kids find the book that's on their level. Okay. Anything else to add to this? I'll fill it in later. You know, we talked about vertical planning, like finding ways to get kids reading more so that they develop more of a love to read. One thing that I'm also, would I say, based on the data, and I've talked about this before on Go Team, is, you know, we are trying to also revamp our gifted programming, because we have seen a decline in students that are gifted, you know, performing at a level 4. And just our percentage performing at a level 4 has decreased. So, you know, revamping that, and Tangie's been working on that, to look at our gifted instruction differently, and make sure it is, you know, all encompassing of all content areas, and also incorporating our STEM and our IB initiatives as well. Tangie, anything to add?
No, I think you said it great. I think that is serving the gifted kids, I think, in a different way with different teachers is going to expose them to more.
I do too. I mean, because, you know, I think that
challenge them.
Everybody assumes that gifted children are all scoring level 4 in the milestones, and that is actually not the case, because if you know about gifted children, they are motivated differently, and sometimes they're only motivated by what they like. So reaching them so that we can really extend our standards and they can perform at their capacity on the milestones.
Yes.
And on the math front, in terms of like the curriculum, and so it sounds as if the English or the language arts is changing this year. Is the math kind of still the same as it's been for the last few years? Can you kind of give us a summation of that?
The standards are changed last year. So last year was the first year with our new Georgia standards for math. And then next year we will have new Georgia standards for English, language arts, and reading. And then we used Eureka for many years. And I just purchased some Eureka math resources so that we can incorporate those in our classrooms to see if it helps enhance what we have. We also have a program called Envisions, but we think that using Eureka as well will really kind of do that extension and really pull our kids higher in math than they are currently.
Is that like a paper-based or computer-based? I will say as a parent, I feel like the extra stuff that sometimes we've subscribed to over the years that is, a go at home and log in and practice math just isn't effective, because if you're a parent trying to keep your kid off of a device.
Oh, Eureka is you and your girls all did
yes.
Eureka math.
I'm saying like the supporting stuff that we're using
with paper pencil. With
Awesome.
everything nowadays comes with an online component, so there will be some online resources, but it's paper pencil workbooks,
Gotcha. Great.
handheld teacher manuals, all the good stuff. Because I am like you, Natalie. I think our kids, and all of us, are in front of screens way too much, and it is creating students who aren't as engaged or attentive, I think. So everybody in this building knows I'm not a big fan of having kids on screens, and we're definitely not going to move to a math program that's going to do that for sure.
Great.
Yeah. Okay.
Can I ask an assessment slice and dice question?
Sure.
Is there, you mentioned that there, we obviously have a little bit of a dip in scores, and some of that might be attributed to new students that join us like in 4th and 5th grade. Is there a way to look at scores and identify students that have been at Jackson the whole way through, and compare like what those scores are for, full elementary participation?
I mean, surely there is, not in my portal that I have APS graphs.
Yeah.
But that is something like because we have a whole department, the data and strategy department. I probably can see about getting that. I mean, I'd be interested to see that too, Isabel, to look at that data. And I can ask Kimberly Lyons, who's our data strategist, maybe after milestones, if she's able to pull it that way. I mean, they can pull everything and do all kinds of things with it. So I'm sure that they can do that as well.
Yes. I mean, and just for everybody else, one of the things that we're working on in PTO is we're, our prospective parent like talking points, right, for tours and just like new parent, like in, what's it called? New parent stuff. Anyway, so just trying to think of like, what are those things that we can say about kids that are sort of Jackson, end of Jackson, and how their scores look?
Right.
Something I thought to add to Miss Atwell is more enrichment opportunities. For example, like next year, I'm hoping to start like a math like game club in the morning.
Right.
It's like a rolling dice. But I know Zach, puts on a play. But at one time we had Jackson joggers, or I don't know if there was, but I think we're gonna do esports. And just making sure kids know of the enrichment opportunities or offering more, to be honest.
Yes, Tangi. Sorry guys, I'm late. It's Lauren here. I was literally about to say the same thing around like clubs and being able to add like those enrichment pieces for clubs. I've been loving, like Miss Grice has started book clubs in her class, and to see like my kid in a book with 5 other friends talking about the same book, and they have their little sessions and discussions. It's been really fun to see. So I definitely feel like clubs would be super, super beneficial.
Yes. And if they're offered, kids will come.
Oh, yeah, they will. Yeah.
It's just figuring out when to offer it and what to offer, but maybe revisiting that again.
Right. I think we need to revisit too the Wednesday tutoring that we did prior to COVID, that APS had in place. So I think that's something that we'll need to explore as a staff about how we can implement that. I think some teachers did it before school, some did it after. Sometimes teachers did it during lunch, which I know a lot of teachers have students with them during lunch to work on things or get extra help. Okay. All right, I'm going to go to the next slide. Okay, so this is just the next step. And we will have, principals will be spending the summer preparing for next school year. And then we will have a Go Team meeting, our first Go Team meeting in July, probably. And then, I can't read the other slide because it's in the way. Sorry. Let me see, what's this say? During the first business meeting in the fall, principal and Go teams will review strategic priorities and metrics for the year. Yeah. All right. I want to just give a couple updates. We have some new staff coming in, certified staff. So this is our certified staff. These are people that either are new to us or changing grade levels. So we have Miss Eads, who will be a first grade teacher. Miss Payne will be a first grade teacher. Miss Hobson is moving to second grade. McKenna Valloni is new to second grade in our school. Fourth grade will be Carla Daniels. She is a veteran teacher from Morningside. And that is joining us. Kim Mack, who many of you know, she's been first grade this year, but she's coming back to fourth grade. And then Nicole Baugh, she is coming to us from Herds Ferry, and she is going to be the special education teacher, co-teacher on fourth grade level. And, you know, we have other updates, like we have couple new kindergarten paras, a new media para, some clerks, but Dr. Austin has hired a lot of those people, so I didn't have all of their names, so that's why they are not included on this. Oh, I forgot one. I forgot Patty Marin, who is a special education teacher, and she's coming back to us. She was a special education teacher here for quite a while. Then she went to be a special ed lead teacher at Sutton and at Howard Middle School. And she wants to come back to elementary, and I was happy to have her. So she's coming back to be one of our special education teachers. All right, so this is something I wanted to share with you guys. This is the teachers participate in the Gallup survey every year, and we did really, really well on this. We were in the 87th percentile. We were one of the top schools in the NAPS with our Gallup scores. So I think the highest is a 5 you can get. So you can see we're a 4.56 in development, a 4.62 in learn and grow. We are 4.41 and committed to quality, and in progress we are 4.35. So this was really good Gallup scores and made me proud.
I think that's a reflection of you, Miss Atwood. Do we know what last year's scores were from the previous year?
I couldn't see that. I don't know why I couldn't find it, but I think it's up from last year, but I didn't see it. I didn't find it. So I looked for it in APS graphs, and this is from my Gallup portal. And so I can only see this because this is my first year as a principal. I can't see the previous one.
Gotcha.
But I can find them out. I can ask Kimberly Lyons.
Yeah.
They'll probably be different. I'm going to just guess they're going to be different. But I was going to say anecdotally, Allison, I mean, your ears should be burning a lot because people are so happy with you and feel so empowered and so satisfied with their jobs, and just all the way around really thrilled to have you.
It feels good to hear that, but as Tangi knows, I often feel like I'm treading water, but thank you. That's good to hear.
Yeah, no, very happy.
All right. The other thing that's exciting is that they did reinstate the gold, silver, and bronze award. The governor's office of student achievement did. And so we did get the bronze award, which is awesome. And this means that we placed between the 93rd and 95th percentile statewide in the average CCRPI progress score over the last 3 years. And that we also earned a single score in 2024 that was more than 10 points lower than the CCRPI single score in 2019. And let's see what else. I think there was 146 schools that got awards, either gold, silver, or bronze, and we were one of 29 schools in the state that got the bronze award. So we were a Greatest Gain school, which is good. And hopefully next year we'll get a bronze award or silver award or gold award. All right, that's all I got.
All right.
Cluster advisory team report. That would be Chris Taplett. Is she on the call?
I don't know if Chris has joined us.
Okay. The other thing is Go Team elections are going on till tomorrow. Everybody got a link sent to them. It's a unique link. I can't send anything to anybody. They would have gotten it through, they send that based on what's in Infinite Campus. And I sent something out yesterday through Infinite Campus, information encouraging families to vote. And then we as teachers got it, but nobody was running against Kim Mack. So that's kind of a done deal. It will be Kim Mack next year. Paul, do you want to talk about the facilities master plan?
Sure. So I will be, I guess you could say, representing Jackson Elementary School as we meet to discuss the facilities master plan task force. To discuss the facilities master plan for 2026. So those meetings kick off early in May and run into October. So there's just 3 meetings, but they're pretty spread out. If anybody, they are looking for, I think they're still looking for more community members. So if you're super interested in it, there is a form on the website. I just dropped it into the chat just in case anybody was interested or knew somebody that was. You could always sign up to be, on the task force, but from a community standpoint. So if anybody has any input or any information they want to give me, I'm certainly open to hearing it and bringing it. But since I won't be on the Go Team next year, I would imagine this will be interesting to some folks. So I'd be looking to, I don't know, Ms. Atwell, if you want me to email you updates, I don't know if you're going to be involved in this. I'm happy to email, and then it could just get relayed to the Go Team during Go Team meetings, or however you'd like me to communicate this information, just let me know.
Thank you, Paul. That's great. And I will say, I've had multiple people come up to me and say, oh, I hear that, Jackson Primary is closing. There is, please make sure everybody knows there is no plan in place to close primary at this moment. And that is not true. Obviously, they are looking at the entire district. They're looking at everything from, combining possibly campuses to closing schools or to rezoning certain clusters or all clusters. So it's really, there's no definites yet. And, we've got to kind of squash that at this point until it really is true or not true. I think we just have to continue that we're going to be a dual campus. Hopefully our enrollment just keeps going up. So it wouldn't make sense for us to close both campus, or one of the campuses.
Shall do.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Are there any announcements? Any announcements? No.
No announcements. Well, hey, I'd just like to say, since I'm going to be rolling off, thank you all very much for the opportunity. Thanks for voting me as chair. It was a privilege working with you all. Obviously, a great group of professionals. I feel great about where the school is going, and I'm looking forward to staying involved as we move forward.
Thank you, Paul. Yeah, thank you guys all for bearing with me with these Go Team meetings and technology and all the things. I appreciate all of you and the work we've done this year and the work we're going to continue to do.
Absolutely. And thank you, Diane, Ms. Jacoby, for being our Go Team Sherpa as we move through this school year. Thank you. Y'all have done great.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for the push to get people to vote. We want to engage those communities.
You guys have sent enough emails. I passed it on. I did emergency messenger. I was like, let me send this.
We have never been accused of not communicating. So
correct. And when I call you a Go Team or email, somebody always responds. I appreciate you guys. Okay. Good. All right.
I'm glad that I'm glad that you feel supported.
I do. I definitely do. Chandra called me last week, so I felt very supported. All right, guys. Well, thank you. Everybody have a good
motion.
Oh, sorry. I forgot about that.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Wait, did we get a motion?
We just need a motion to adjourn and then a second.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, York. And who is the second?
Ren seconds.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye,
everybody. Bye.